Counting macros and calories and measuring food literally almost killed me. And that is why I do not count macros. Stop. Hey guys, it is Kelsey from hitburn.com. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining today in this video. And I am so excited that you're here today because we have a really important topic to talk about. And it is something that we get asked all the time. This is kind of a hot topic. This is kind of a controversial topic. So the topic for today is counting macros, which means macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So I wrote an article about this topic a few months ago, and I thought it would be really important to just go a little bit more in depth about some of the things that we teach and some of my own personal experience with this, because it's always helpful to have someone to look to when you're going through something yourself. If you have a similar experience, or even if your experience is completely different, it's really interesting to look at other people's perspectives. And I feel like I love learning from other people, especially people who are completely different from me, because I always learn something new, and then I have an appreciation for other people's perspectives and their view on life. So maybe your experience is incredibly similar to mine, and maybe your experience is completely different. But either way, it's important to be a part of the conversation. So I need to start off with a caveat, because it's really important to understand that this video is from my own perspective and from my own experience with this. So it might be completely different from your experience. And honestly, that is okay. If you disagree with every single thing that I say, that is totally fine, because there is not one holy grail nutrition approach. There are many different nutrition approaches that can work. So the most important thing is figuring out what works for you and your lifestyle, what makes you happy, what makes you healthy, and what allows you to just be a happy, healthy person in general. Stick with that. If you've found that, then that's awesome. But if you're still searching, I think this video will be really important, because a lot of people, including myself, have found a lot of freedom in nutrition through the approaches that we're going to be talking about. This is for everyone who has ever felt stressed or anxious or confused about their nutrition, especially if you've tried counting calories or counting macros and just been overwhelmed, frustrated, stressed out, and just consumed by it. If you've found counting calories or counting macros too time-consuming, then this is for you. And if you're just searching for something that is simple and flexible, and you just want to find freedom in your nutrition, then this is for you. Okay, so I'm probably gonna get a little bit fired up because of my own personal experience with this. But I do not count calories or macros because of how it messed up my mind and my health. And it absolutely infuriates me that it has been instilled in people's minds that they have to count and weigh and measure food in order to get results. It honestly, it like breaks my heart when clients and readers and friends have told me that they go to bed hungry because they can't go over their macro range or their calorie allotment for the day, or that they feel like they just can't get their nutrition right because they've gone over their carbs or their fat or their calories by 2% for the day. Like 2%. Like honestly, it seems criminal to me for people to feel defeated for not being within their allotment by 2%. It just is absolutely insane. And it just makes me so angry that people have been taught that they have to live that way, that that's the only way that they're gonna see results. And why I don't count macros. Counting macros and calories and measuring food literally almost killed me. And so it's just not something that I can get behind as a nutrition strategy. And that is why I do not count macros. So a little bit of background for that whole season that I kind of just briefly talked about. So basically back in 2008, I was playing basketball in college, and I wanted to get in the best shape of my life. So I set some nutrition rules for myself and a very rigid workout regimen to get myself in the best shape that I could. These rules morphed into these life and death scenarios where I couldn't have 1 more gram of food than I was allowed. If I didn't get a little bit faster in my workout, I was completely worthless because I had set these rules, and somehow they just quickly spiraled all the way down to the point where I was just obsessing about everything that I did. And it freaked me out because I'd always been able to trust myself. I was always a really even-keeled, steady person who, like I said, I was a rule follower. And so I was always able to trust my instincts. And if I felt kind of compelled to do something, I always felt like I was kind of on the right track. So it really scared me how quickly it spiraled from getting in the best shape of my life to a full-blown disorder where I was completely wrecked. So basically, I obsessed over every gram, every morsel of food that I put into my body, and the certain types of foods. I suddenly wasn't allowed to eat anymore. These rules morphed from one thing into the next, and I would just try and take it a little bit further, where I would start restricting even more types of foods, and then the amounts would get smaller, and it just all of a sudden snowballed into this horrible thing that I could not control. So my anxiety every time I would eat was through the roof, and I would get pangs of anxiety whenever someone offered me something that wasn't allowed on my list of foods that I could eat, or if I had to eat a certain amount of food that was more than I thought I should be allowed, it just would give me panic attacks. So I hated myself. I hated how I looked. I hated who I was. I had zero energy. I am a very happy person in general, but I was not myself. I completely closed myself off to all my family and friends. I couldn't perform in school. I couldn't perform in basketball. I was just a wreck. So people started noticing the changes in how gaunt and sickly I looked. But like, honestly, my thoughts and my mind was the most painful part, because you're your own worst critic. And when your mind is sick, it's a million times worse in how you treat yourself. And I did not give myself any grace. My thoughts literally crushed me from the inside out, and I just felt like I couldn't get out from under it. You know, you can look at somebody who is physically ill, and you can often see they have signs of an illness. But when someone has something going on in their mind, depression, anxiety, an eating disorder, something like that, you can't always see their pain. You can't see their sickness. And so it's hard to understand what it actually feels like, or that they're actually going through something, because you can't see the physical signs all the time. So that year I spiraled so quickly that I needed treatment ASAP. I'm eternally grateful to Dennis, to my mom and dad, for getting me treatment so fast and for making me do it, because they saved me. I know that a lot of people don't make it out of disorders, and I am so grateful that they did that for me, that they cared enough to take me against my will to get help, because it made all the difference in the world. Did I think I needed treatment? That's a tough question, because if you would have asked me back then, I'd been like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, it's not that bad. Like, I'm fine. Like, I just need to, start eating a little bit more here and there and stop working out so obsessively and whatever. But deep down, I knew it, but I didn't know. It was just like deep down in my heart, I knew that there was some panic within me that I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what these feelings are. I don't know if I can do this by myself. And those thoughts and feelings I didn't really understand that I was feeling those things deep down until after I got healthy. Like, looking back on that, like, I could remember times where I really wanted help, but I didn't really know what that looked like. I wanted to not feel those things. And maybe that's more of what it is, where I just didn't want to feel sick anymore. I didn't want to hate myself anymore. And so that was me wanting help, but not knowing that that's what I really needed. So I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that it was just immediately amazing and that life was good. And I suddenly had a great relationship with food and with exercise, because I did not right away. It took me a while to be able to to fully get to the point where I was like, I feel like I am fully recovered. The recovery process was really hard, really hard. Basically had to go through like a refeeding process where either Dennis or my parents would have to prepare all of my meals and give me all of my meals for me. And this lasted for a long time, because I was so scared of certain foods that I would like have these fits of rage and scream and cry. And like, I'm a very even-keeled person, but I would just like have these panic attacks and go absolutely crazy because it felt like someone was pushing me off of a cliff and was like, no, you'll be fine. But it felt like they were literally pushing me off the cliff with no parachute, that if I were to eat this, I would literally die. Like that's how it doesn't make sense to someone who is not sick, but that's how it feels to someone who is sick. It literally feels like you're making them do something that is going to kill them. And that was my experience. And it was hard. It was terrible. Like Dennis and I don't argue very much, but those times looking back on them, it was a real test of our relationship. And he was so amazing to not only be tough on me, but to care for me and to love me through it, and to love me enough to do something that unselfish. And it was not easy to be around me during those times. Like when I wasn't eating, I was completely zoned out all the time. I was literally like a zombie. And then during refeeding, I was this monster every time we had to eat. It was just horrible. And my mom was an angel from heaven. She became so active in the eating disorder community to learn everything that she could to help me as quickly as possible. And her knowledge and her care and her love, her prayers, I can't even describe how amazing it is to have someone do that for you, and to really take it upon themselves to believe enough in you to know that you can get better. My parents are incredible people, and if you can't tell, I really, really love them. So that process was not easy, but it got easier over time. And I continued to get therapy, and I continued to eat food, and I would slowly get more and more comfortable with eating the foods that I wasn't comfortable with eating before, and I would get more comfortable with eating larger amounts than I was before. And over time, it got easier. And eventually we got to the point where Dennis didn't have to prepare my meals. He didn't have to serve me certain portion sizes. I got to the point where I was able to choose the amounts that I felt were right for me. Dennis would check it and be like, yeah, that's good, that's pretty good. And then I would eat on my own. So we eventually got to the point then where eating just became a normal thing, where we ate all different types of foods, and food eventually just did not control my life anymore. And that took a couple years to be able to get to that point. And that says a lot about Dennis being able to work with me during that point. And that also is, I mean, there's so many contributing factors to why I was able to get to that point. But the overall point is, after a couple of years, I was able to fully be recovered. Like no negative thoughts, no symptoms of the eating disorder were there anymore. And it was a point where I could literally go out for ice cream anytime I wanted, where I could eat more than Dennis and it was fine and I didn't even care. And I could have pizza and not even think twice about it. Like I could call up Domino's and it's like not a big deal. And I mean, there's so many little things along the way that I had to relearn and had to understand, okay, what is my voice? Who is Kelsey? And what do I know to be true about myself? And what is the lying voice in my head that is telling me that I'm not good enough, that is telling me all these negative thoughts about myself? learning to distinguish those voices and being able to then understand, okay, this is the lying voice and this is not the truth. So if this is not the truth, what is the truth? And how can I overcome whatever this fear, whatever this anxiety is, by understanding the truth about myself? So kind of having these like mental, like devil on your shoulder, angel on your shoulder types of battles, like within, was really important for me because it really helped me distinguish myself from the lying voice that I was hearing. And that took practice, and it wasn't perfect, and I failed a lot of times. But eventually I was able to get to the point where I literally don't even hear that lying voice anymore, because I know who I am, and I know my worth, and I know that numbers and food doesn't define me, and exercise doesn't define me, and I have learned a healthy balance with food and nutrition and exercise, and I love it, and it's not something that I fear. It's something that I love, and I love to teach. And so that is the point of being able to show others what that looks like. And that's why it's so much deeper for me, because I feel like I am able to have a platform where I can not only be a story of a recovered eating disorder, and I didn't talk about it for a long time because I didn't want my disorder to define who I was. And I had, like, right away, I was like, I'm recovered, I can talk about it. Like, I want to, like, change everybody's life the way that my life has changed. But then after, like, a year of being kind of an advocate, I was like, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to have that label of, like, eating disorder. And I didn't want that to, like, define me. But now it's been like 8 years, and I'm in this place now where I am so blessed and thankful to have a platform to be able to share health and fitness with other people. And I think that it's really important to share kind of that dark side of my past, because maybe you have an eating disorder, maybe you just have a troubled relationship with food, or have felt shame around food, or shame in your body image, or just anything, and maybe just kind of don't know what to eat and you just want to be able to get more fit. Whatever your story is, I feel blessed to be able to talk with you about some different options that can really help you develop a healthy relationship with food and help you learn how to live a lifestyle. If you currently are suffering from an eating disorder, or haven't been necessarily diagnosed, but like think that you might have some of those symptoms, I would suggest you need to talk to a professional who is licensed in being able to treat eating disorders, because that's the most important thing, is to be able to get professional help for that. Because as tough as the process was for me, I would not go back for 1 second. There's not one piece within me that wishes I was the way I was, because my life is so full, and I am happy again, and I'm free. And I'm just really thankful for that. So if you are someone who is currently struggling, seek professional help. I'll put a link down below the video. But that being said, if you feel like you're struggling, you need professional help, and that's good and that's important, so do it. Now, my next piece of information is for people who just don't necessarily have an eating disorder. That's who I want to really talk to and reach out to right now, because the approach that Dennis and I have been able to develop is something that really can help shed some light on how to eat for your body and for your goals, so that you can make it a lifestyle, so you don't have to be obsessed with counting and feel like that has to be a part of your life. The approach that we teach, you do not have to count anything. You just eat food for your body, to fuel your body and to get the nutrients that you need to be healthy. So if you just want to reach your goals, if you want to find freedom in nutrition, if you want to find something that is flexible and easy to maintain as a lifestyle, then you should keep watching, because we have some information that I think will be really helpful. But first, I just need to reiterate that not everybody who counts macros has an eating disorder. That has to be said, because it's not true. Like, people can count and have success with it, and some people who have a lot of trouble with overeating, sometimes that can be something that is helpful to understand kind of what they're putting in their bodies, which can be really helpful. So that needs to be said that it is incredibly successful for some people. This message is for those where macro counting and calorie counting has not been successful and it becomes too obsessive or time consuming. So I just need to make that differentiation because like I said, this message is not to put other people down or put other nutrition strategies down. It's to convey my own experience and help you find something that could be flexible and maintainable for you as a lifestyle. Okay, so after I got healthy, I wanted to find something that I didn't have to think about, where I was just able to maintain a healthy outlook on food and nutrition, where it didn't consume my life, where I didn't even really need to think about it, but it also helped me stay healthy and fit. So Dennis and I had done some research into a nutrition approach called carb cycling. So a lot of carb cycling approaches incorporate macro counting and are a little bit more rigid than what we wanted to do as a lifestyle. And so we molded it and tried to figure out a way to incorporate the elements that really worked of carb cycling, but to make it flexible enough to make it as a lifestyle where you don't have to count anything and you just eat food. So that's kind of what we've come up with and have been following for a few years, and it's been incredible, and we've helped thousands of people be able to find something really flexible that actually works for them as well. And with our approach to carb cycling, we really want to convey that there aren't hard do's and don'ts, that there aren't harsh rules for what you can and can't do with carb cycling. So we suggest mostly on lower carb days to eat protein, veggies, and healthy fats like nuts, avocado, and things like that. And then on higher carb days, stick to mostly protein, veggies, and one ingredient carbs. So things like sweet potatoes, rice, beans, quinoa, fruit, things like that. But that doesn't mean you can't have fats on high carb day, and it doesn't mean you can't have carbs on lower carb day. It just means on lower carb day, you have more fats and you get your energy from your fats and you have a lower amount of carbs. And then on higher carb day, you eat more carbs and you get your energy from your carbs, and then you just have a lower amount of fats. So there's not hard do's and don'ts. It's meant to be a flexible approach. And these are guidelines that outline our choices for most of the time. But we still go out for pizza and burgers with our friends anytime we want. It's really easy to build in flexibility and just maintain a completely flexible lifestyle. So the simple outline for how I eat. I eat intuitively, which means I eat when I'm hungry and until I'm satisfied. If you're hungry, it means your metabolism is working and you need food to fuel your body, so you have to eat. And next is eat real food. So the majority of time, I eat one ingredient foods. So basically that just means foods that aren't processed. So things like meat and veggies, avocado, nuts, sweet potatoes, rice, things like that. Like lots of different foods, but they have one ingredient. So they're just not processed and they come from the earth, so you know exactly what's in them. And next is the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time I'll stick to more one ingredient foods, unprocessed foods, and then 20% of the time we'll go out for burgers with friends, or we'll just enjoy a dessert or whatever we want to have. And it's all about flexibility and consistency over time. And then carb cycle with flexibility. So like I mentioned before, there's tons of different carb cycles that you can follow as far as carb cycling schedules. So if you have a lot of weight that you need to lose, there's a different carb cycle schedule that you can follow versus someone who maybe wants to gain some muscle or just kind of tone up a little bit. There's different schedules that you can follow based on whatever types of results that you want. And that's why it's cool, because you can really cater it to whatever your needs are. It's really, really flexible. And lastly is I give myself grace. And I want you to give yourself grace as well. Find a nutrition approach that works for you, that you can maintain most of the time. So whether that's flexibly carb cycling like we do, or another approach that works well for you, give yourself grace and find something that allows you to enjoy life and enjoy food. Because the reality is nutrition is a piece of your life and it's not your entire life. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I know it's a little bit longer than most of the videos that we do, but I hope that it was helpful, and I hope that you were able to learn something from what we do. And if you do something different, we'd love to hear about it. Or if you have questions, we'd love to follow up with you about it. You can always shoot us an email or leave a comment below the video. We'd be happy to get back to you. All I want for you is to be happy and healthy in your own skin. I want you to be confident and love your life. So I hope that you're able to figure out something that can really work for you. So thanks again for watching this, and make sure you subscribe below to this channel so you can get our daily videos. We do lots of fun workouts, more nutrition information. Share this video with a friend. Leave a comment if you have any questions. We'd be happy to get back to you. So thanks again for joining. We'll see you tomorrow.